So, we continue in English, although the next speaker is a German guy, but anyway, it's an international movement he's heading in a way. So 2003, a long time ago, some guys had what we in German call a Schnapsidee, like an idea born out of too much alcohol. But the goals of the movement they founded they're rather sober. They're raising awareness about prostate cancer and raising funds for research by the millions. I'm talking, of course, about the Movember Foundation. And there are two main reasons, we think, besides the flawless style, why they are so successful: content marketing and collaborations. So let's dive into details about that with Michael Fischer, Country Manager Europe of the Movember Foundation. Herzlich willkommen, Michael, and there's no surprise what he's wearing in his face. Hi, Michael. The stage is yours. I think you got water, you got a bit of Franzbrötchen. I spilled that one. Have fun.
Perfect, thank you. Hi guys, thanks so much for coming here, attending the talk. The last time I spoke in front of a big audience was at a urologist conference, and that wasn't much fun, to say the least. So I'm really happy to be here today. As I was already introduced, I'm the country manager for Europe, so I look after Movember in Europe, and I helped kickstart the Movember campaign in Germany in 2012. But as we've heard earlier, Movember was actually started in Australia in 2003. And although there are a lot of millennials around here, if you just want to go back, walk down the memory lane into 2003, and imagine what the men looked like in 2003, they look like this guy. Obviously, that's John Hamm, a great actor, but if you look at his face and if you look around, you will realize he doesn't have a beard. And back in 2003, the guys who founded Movember sat in a pub and they talked about trends, as men do sometimes. And they realized trends come and go, some trends disappear and then come back again. But one trend that disappeared in the 80s and never came back was the mustache. And they thought, that's kind of bad, because we really think mustaches are cool. Our dads wore them, our famous Movember mustache icons like Freddie Mercury or Tom Selleck wore a mustache, and they dared each other after a few drinks in a so-called Schnapsidee, Kneipenwette, whatever you want to call it in German, to grow a mustache for the month of November. And it was 30 guys, they didn't really think much of it, but they realized once they grew a mustache, it raised a lot of attention. Their girlfriends wanted to break up with them. Their bosses didn't want to send them to a conference like this one or to a sales meeting. And they just said, what's wrong with you? Why are you wearing a mustache? And I said, well, we do it with our friends. But they realized one thing initially: mustache start a conversation. So if you grow a mustache and you normally don't have one, people ask you why you do it. And after the first year, and it was only 30 guys, they realized this moment to start a conversation is really, really powerful. And maybe we should use that to raise awareness for a good cause. And then they did some research, and I found out that one of the biggest health risks for men is prostate cancer. If you look around the room, I don't know how many men are in here, but around 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer in their life. And a lot of men don't know what their risks are, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But moving forward, 2003 to 2004, there was around 300 men that did Movember, and it grew into a global movement since then. And the beautiful thing is, although nowadays more and more men wear beards, the mustache is still a bit of a special gimmick. And even our friend John Hamm, as you can see here, he tried out a different beard style, but I'm sure you agree that the mustache obviously looks best on his face. So, again, back to the more serious topic: why do we do what we do? Well, you may not have heard about this, but men's health is in crisis. We all know there's a lot of horrible things going on. I'm not talking about politics, but for example, there's a big movement right now for climate change, and there's a lot of people protesting on the streets to raise awareness for that. But no men are protesting about the men's health crisis, and that's mainly because, well, the main reason is that men are in crisis, and the main reason they don't talk about it is the driver for their crisis. Because men suffer in silence, and even if men get diagnosed or get sick with a disease such as cancer, they don't really talk about it. They don't talk about their mental health issues. And all of those reasons contribute to the fact that men are dying on average globally 5 to 6 years younger than women. So I'm going to talk quickly about the cause areas, and then I'm going to show you what we've achieved so far, but also how we tackle those with collaborations and with content marketing. So prostate cancer is an older man's disease, and there's one simple thing men can do, which is to go see a doctor regularly when they're age 50, have a simple blood test to determine whether they're at risk or not and what they can do to mitigate that risk. Another one is testicular cancer, which is predominantly a young man's disease, and we encourage young men to check their testicles regularly, ideally once in a month, maybe in the shower. And there's a few promotion teams at this event who give away small samples of shower gels and small testicle self-check guides. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute when I talk about a case study we did with a Unilever brand. And the third one is suicide prevention. So 3/4 of people that take their lives are men. And I think I've talked for like 5 minutes by now. So in those 5 minutes, 5 men would have already taken their life globally. That's over 500,000 men who commit suicide, and that's 500,000 men that die out of a cause that could be mitigated by, for example, opening up about your feelings. So if we do our job right, and if men all around the world grow a mustache and support men's health, then we have a guy like this supporting us, beautiful Tom Selleck in his prime. So I talked about mustache idols before, and that's one of the idols that I think embodies the brand really, really well. So over the years, since 2003, Movember has become a global movement. We have over 6 million supporters until today that have supported us. That's men, that's women as well. So obviously women, most of them can't grow a mustache, and those who can probably shouldn't grow one. So we always say women can be involved as well because they can be a passionate supporter of the men in their life, but they can also raise awareness, and they can talk to the men in their life because all the women obviously have a man in their life that care about, whether that's their dad or maybe their brother. And those 6 million supporters raised over 600 million euros, which is one of the biggest contribution to men's health globally. We're one of the biggest funders for prostate cancer research. And with that money, we funded over 1,200 projects. But as I said earlier, it's down to the individual Movember supporter, the Mo Bros and the Mo Sisters, as we call them. And we like to recreate a moment where for 1 month in a year, they don't take themselves too seriously. They give each other a wink, and a wink back, and a nod, and they have a good time doing good, which is the main topic of Movember, having fun doing good. So how do we bring that to life through content marketing? I've brought a few cases that give you an example of how we do what we do, but I also wanted to highlight the fact that the mustache wasn't really an icon in pop culture, and it's actually become an icon now. So we see mustaches at popular TV shows like The Simpsons, and one of my personal mustache icons in the history of film is this lovely man, Ron Burgundy, as you know him from The Anchorman. So the mustache still is a really funky, weird, and sometimes funny symbol, and we like to use that to amplify our message. But the mustache is always a conversation starter, and for me, content marketing is about starting a conversation, being where the audience is at, but also ideally telling a better story than the other guy at the bar or the other guy at the table. So the first case study I'm going to talk about is our Formula One content takeover Mexico. I don't know how much you know about Formula One, but every race has their kind of unique image. We have the iconic Grand Prix in Monaco in their tight streets. We have the very old traditional Grand Prix like in Silverstone. And Mexico was quite new on the roster, and they tried to build themselves as a brand so they can be an iconic Grand Prix. And they did a few brainstorms, and they realized that the main brand value they want to be identified with is fun. Coincidentally, Movember is seen by the audience as a fun charity. So we got together with them, and we did a Formula One takeover last year. We've produced a little video that shows you a bit of what we did, and then afterwards I can tell you a bit more about how we brought it to life.
rock and mo, save a bro.
I'm not 100% sure this was a good idea.
Nice, thank you. So as you saw, this is a really, really nice example of how we brought the mustache to attention. And a big nod to my friend Paul Ripke. He's actually, I think, talking at another stage. So if you missed that, just hold on for 5 more minutes and you can rush over there. We've had that on a lot of Instagram channels. We've had the lovely Kai Ebel, who's like Mr. Formula One at German television, who went to the barbershop we had in the paddocks. We had the drivers shave a mustache. We had the mechanics participate. So it's a really nice content marketing idea where we subtly got Movember into Formula One, which I think is one of the biggest sports events in the world. Another example is gaming. So as you might know, gaming is a big industry. It's much bigger than the film industry, I think, by volume of money spent. And we have been partnering with gamers pretty much since a few years ago, and I just want to show you 2 examples of what we did last year. So this lovely man is called Dr. Disrespect, and he's one of the biggest gamers, Twitchers, whatever you want to call him. And he's done a small Movember campaign on his channels where he just raised awareness and funds for Movember. He raised 30,000 euros just in 1 week, which is incredible, but it also shows you how much money he actually raises for himself in a similar amount of time. And another one is beautiful. It's Spencer FC, who is a FIFA player, so he plays FIFA for a living. Great job, if you ask me. And he also raised money for us, I think, over the last 3 years, over £100,000. And he's actually done a really beautiful story throughout last year's Movember, where he reached out to his followers and he asked them to challenge him to either play football with them, or he went to football clubs, to big Premier League football clubs, and did interviews with the players and the coaches about their health and how they tackle stress and, you know, the challenge of being a football player. So really nice activities where we went to where men are. We know that gaming is an interesting topic predominantly for young men, but we also know young men are at risk of having testicular cancer. Young men are at risk of taking their life. So by going to where men are, going into the channels that is relevant for them, we think we can maximize our message. And also I have to say that this is a really beautiful campaign, because obviously we want to take Movember into the digital space. We've talked about Formula One, which I think is still watched in the television by a lot of people. Gaming obviously is the new next television thing. So you will learn this at this conference, that there's a lot of amazing new channels out there to reach your audience and your target groups. And the third one is a bit more old school, at least the second example, which is Movember at consumer point of sale. So one example we put off last year with our partner L'Oreal Men Expert is a collaboration with Jamie Lannister or Nicola Costa-Waldau, depending on how much you like Game of Thrones. And he is a brand ambassador for L'Oreal Men Expert, and he gave away a money can't buy prize, which is to accompany him to the Game of Thrones premiere that happened, I think, in April, last April in New York. And this was published in November at a time where everybody was anxious to learn more about the new Game of Thrones season, the final season, what's going to happen. So all the fan blogs shared this because we kind of filled the void. Nobody really knew what was going on, and we were able to place our message in there. And it was a simple mechanic. You can buy a ticket on this platform called OMR, And the more tickets you bought for a donation, the higher your chances were of winning it and being part of that experience and being flown first class to New York to be part of that experience. And another one that's really close to my heart is this activity we did together with our partner Unilever in the Netherlands. It's pretty simple. It is a limited edition of a shower gel and a deodorant. And what we did is very simple. We just put a little testicle self-check. As you can see on the left, you can read it, you can't really see it. That encourages men to check their testicles. Obviously, we put it on the shower gel, so men do it in the shower, which is what we recommend because men should spend some time down there anyhow. And we asked the men to just check themselves, and we produced, I think, 200,000 units of those. And that was pretty much it until we received a message from Jeroen. And Jeroen is a lovely man in the Netherlands, and he bought the shower gel, and he did what we asked him to do. He checked his testicles, and he found a lump. And luckily, he went to the doctor straight away, and the doctor diagnosed testicular cancer. He had an operation, and he's now fully recovered, and he's a father of 2. So I think that's a really beautiful story where our collaboration and our marketing efforts actually made an impact in a man's life. With testicular cancer, if you catch it early, the chances of survival are really, really high. But I personally know a lot of men that don't want to go to the doctor, that are a bit shy, and they rather want to shy away, and this is obviously not what we want men to do. Because men are a bit stubborn and they don't like to look after their health as much, we need to nudge them and we need to remind them what to do. Speaking of which, what to do? What are my key takeaways? What should your key takeaways be from that presentation? Number 1, content is king. So obviously we want to create content that is really engaging with the audience. We want to create content that is bold. We want to create content that really, really excites people. Sorry, that's the one. Know your audience was the one. I mixed those two up. So know your audience, know what drives and excites your audience, know what really resonates with them. As I said, if you want to reach men, if you want to reach young men, you need to ideally have a focus group with them, figure out what they're interested in, and then go make those phone calls, write those emails, and find the responsible partners. Content is king, I already talked about. Create some content that really, really resonates with your audience. And remember what I said earlier, just try to tell a better story than the other guys. Identify who your competition is and figure out where their weaknesses are, and then go to those places where you think you can reach your audience and where you can drive that content that really resonates with them, whether that's Game of Thrones, whether that's Formula 1, whether that's gaming, or whether that's other sectors that are really relevant for your audience. And the third one, the one I think is driving a lot of marketing efforts and should be driving a lot of marketing efforts, be bold. Movember was started in a pub. It was a silly idea of a few men, and every year they challenged themselves just to go a bit further, just to figure out what's the next best thing we can do. They were in Australia and they challenged themselves, well, why not go to New Zealand? They went to New Zealand, it went on and on and on, and now we're in 20 markets. We're a global charity, so I think by being bold, by thinking big, you can really make a difference. We want to make a difference in men's lives, and we want to stop men dying too young. And if you want to be part of that journey, if you want to find out more about how Movember can help you as a brand, as an agency, maybe to drive a new product, maybe to create a new campaign, or maybe to just do a good thing, please reach out to me at my email address and my Instagram and Twitter handle. And you can also ask me why it is Engtanzkavalier. It's actually a really, really interesting story. And thank you very much for your attention, and have a great day.
Thanks, Michael.
Danke.
Great talk, great goal. So you talked a lot about how to integrate and use in a kind of way like celebrities or guys who have an audience. Like I think now, because Joko Winterscheid posted something about me, so I gained 100 followers at once. Yeah,
that's more than I have.
Good. That's good for me because now I'm at 7,000 whatever. So let's say I'm just a normal user. What can I do to support your cause?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. So we've created pretty much everything on our website. So if you go on Movember.com, you can create a fundraising profile. And once you've created that, uploaded an image, etc., you get a short URL that you can share on your social media channels. So you can send that around and you can create a profile for your team, for your company, for your sports club. So I actually spend a lot of time working with companies who use Movember in order to build their teams and in order to drive a little bit of a fundraising challenge within the company.
So you talked a lot about like raising awareness, but in the end it comes down to money, isn't it?
Sure.
That's what you need, because you need to fund the research.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a rat race, isn't it? Because it's never over. You always need one more euro to do something, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's a beautiful thing. I think that's what drives people, what drives them to come back every year, because they want to raise more, they want to do something bigger. We have people who grow a different mustache every year in order to get more money out. We have people running the marathon. We just had one guy who rode his motorbike around the world at age 21 to raise money and awareness. So I think men are competitive creatures, and by always encouraging year after year to do it again, maybe to take it up a notch, I think that's a really good driver. And to be honest, the battle is never over. Men are dying too young because they don't interact enough with their health. So as long as they are in need of us, we're going to be around and we're going to give them a nudge and help them.
So yeah, have you been wearing the mustache for how many years now?
I grew my first mustache in 2007, and I didn't know Movember back then, and someone actually asked me if I do it for Movember, and I looked like him completely confused. Coincidentally. But when I picked up Movember in 2012, one of the reasons I started working with them is because someone told me, you have a mustache, you look kind of okay with it, you should work for Movember.
What could have been a problem for other jobs, like
Yeah.
was a perfect match.
Definitely.
And you still like it?
Yeah, of course.
Is
My
it?
girlfriend likes it. So
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good
I'm
thing.
a happy man.
And not many days when you woke up, looked in the mirror and said, "Why do I have to do this?" Like,
No, but sometimes people look at me strange. I remember an incident a couple of years ago. I was in Hamburg at a gas station, and the cashier looked at me, and she was like, what's that in your face? Why are you wearing a mustache? You're too young to wear a mustache.
Really?
So that's the main reason we do this. We don't want men to look, we do want them to look cool, but we also want them to change their look to start a conversation. So by making yourself look a bit different, maybe a bit silly for 1 month, you can have that conversation with your dad, with your grandpa, with your friends, with your colleagues, and that's what it's all about. We want to drive change by changing the face of men's health, literally growing a mustache, starting a conversation.
Well, it's so funny because it's such a conversation starter, always. Because I had it like 2 years ago when my first book got published, and I don't know, it was kind of a silly idea, and I cut the mustache, and I couldn't like buy milk without anyone saying like, "Why do you do this?"
Yeah.
And I was always like, "Does it look that bad?" And no, it just looks strange.
Yeah.
But it's still like that. It's because 30 years ago it was a cliche of the like kind of wife beater
Yeah.
potential, but now it's a kind of a hipster thing, but still not the breakthrough.
Yeah.
It's still something strange in your face.
And it's a challenge. If it becomes too popular, obviously it can backfire, and I think we see mustaches everywhere.
You need something
on
new there.
T-shirt, on socks. But I think still putting it on a face is a bold move. And what men do like me, who have a mustache year round, we still shave it off on the 1st of November. So people don't ask, oh, why do you have a mustache? But they ask, where's your mustache gone to?
Nice.
So we're always wearing it a bit. And I'm pretty sure, I know there's also a barber shop somewhere on the area. So if you feel intrigued to maybe try it out for a day or two, go to the barber shop. I think you get a little goodie bag if you actually are bold enough and brave enough to grow a mustache. So go try it out. I can highly recommend it, obviously.
So, last question. How many celebrities turned down like helping you because they didn't want to cut the mustache? Was it a deal breaker? A lot.
A lot. Yeah, it's always a challenge, especially when you have people who are in the public spotlight, who are maybe involved in film projects. But that's why Movember is so beautiful. On the one hand, we work with big collaborations, we work with big Hollywood actors, we work with big influencers, but when it comes down to the individual, it's actually your average guy who does Movember. So as much as we love to work with celebrities, and as hard as it is, in the end, it's always the one guy on the ground who does it, who is the influencer in his peer group, who is the influencer to his grandpa, to his dad, to his uncle, or at his company. So we always need to find a tier 2 approach where we get the big celebrities to show face, literally for Movember, but in the end it's all about getting the average Joe, getting you, getting me, getting you guys involved and supporting men's health.
Okay, Michael, all the best with these
Thank you.
courses, and thanks for the hairy talk. Give me the clicker and have a good time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.